2016. So what happened in 2016? I don't know. Something in Brazil during the month of August happened. Oh yeah, maybe the Olympics. There's an introduction of Penny Alexiak. What else happened in 2016? I think there's some baseball. So we start January 6th. Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza are elected into the Hall of Fame. Ken Griffey Jr. gets 99.3% of the votes. All but 3 voted for him. I like to go over there, smack the 3 who didn't vote for him. It's like, come on. March 15th, U.S. Department of Treasury allows Cuban citizens to work in the U.S., which means Cuban baseball players are allowed to play in the U.S. as effective with that call. Let's see. May 7th, Bartolo Colon hits his first career home run at the age of 42. 42 years old, he finally hits a home run. I think it's his last one. Let's see here. May 2nd, the Texas Rangers announces that that 2019 would be the last season at Globe Life Park. And for the 2020 season, they will be moving into Globe Life Field. So they're obviously retaining the Globe Life name and just changing ballparks. August 7th, Ichiro Suzuki reaches hit number 3,000 with the Miami Marlins. Yeah, I remember that. September 29th is the first time since 2005 that a game ends in a tie. Pittsburgh won, Chicago Cubs run. Game was called in the 6th inning due to rain, and considering it had no impact in the standings, they just never replayed it. Houston and Cincinnati was the last one. That game that was stopped due to rain, and the game tied. June 30th, 2005. Miami Marlins had a pitcher, I think it was in an accident, and ended up dying, and their game with Atlanta ended up getting canceled and not made up. Anyways, standings, well, on the subject of not making up games, Boston goes 93-69 to take the AL East. Toronto and Baltimore each go 89-73, 4 games back, and they both end up in the postseason. Yes, they got the wild card, both of them. Yankees go 84-78, 8 back, and Tampa Bay goes 68-94, 25 back, mile and a half out of it. Cleveland takes the AL Central at 94-67. Detroit goes 86-75, 8 back. Kansas City goes 81-81, 13 and a half back. Chicago goes 78-84, 16.5 back. Minnesota goes 59-103, 35 and a half back. Mile and a half out of it. I think that's 2 miles actually. But Texas wins the American League West, 95-67. Seattle goes 86-76, 9 back. Houston goes 84-78, 11 back. Los Angeles Angels, they dropped the Havana Empire, so they're just now the Los Angeles Angels. 74-88, they went 21 back. Oakland goes 69-93, 26 back. As we do the National League East, Washington taking the division with a 95-67 record. Mets go 87-75, 8 back, and takes the wild card. Miami goes 79-82, 15 and a half back. Philadelphia goes 71-91, 24 back. Atlanta goes 68-93, 26 and a half back. Chicago goes 103-58 to take the National League Central. St. Louis goes 86-76, 17 and a half back. Pittsburgh goes 78-83, 25 back. Milwaukee goes 73-89, 30 and a half back. Cincinnati goes 68-94, 68-94, 35 and a half back. Los Angeles Dodgers take the West, 91-71. San Francisco goes 87-75, 4 back, and they also take the wild card. Colorado goes 75-87, 16 back. Arizona goes 69-93, 22 back, and San Diego goes 68-94, 23 back. Jose Altuve of Houston, 338 average, led the American League. Mark Trumbo of Baltimore, 47 home runs, led the majors. Edwin Encarnacion of Toronto and David Ortiz of Boston, 127 RBIs, tied for the American League lead. Rick Porcello of Boston, 22 wins, led the majors. Aaron Sanchez of Toronto, an even 3 ERA, led the American League. And Justin Verlander of Detroit, 254 strikeouts, led the American League. DJ LeMahieu, I think I pronounced it right, LeMahieu, Colorado batter, led the majors with a 348 average. Nolan Arenado of Colorado and Chris Carter of Milwaukee had 41 home runs, tied for the National League lead. Arenado also had 133 RBIs, which led the majors. Max Scherzer of Washington had 20 wins to lead the National League. Scherzer also had 284 strikeouts, which led the majors. Cal Hendricks of Chicago at 2.13 ERA led the majors. Postseason, the one-game playoff. Toronto beat Baltimore 5-2 in 11 innings. Edwin Encarnacion had the game-winning 3-run homer in the bottom of the 11th. Yes, Toronto was a home team. San Francisco beat the Mets 3-0. I think the Giants were also the home team. Anyways, this is American League Division Series. Got Toronto versus Texas. Game 1 in Texas, Toronto wins 10-1. Game 2 in Texas, Toronto wins 5-3. Game 3 in Toronto, Toronto wins 7-6 in 10 innings. Second straight American League Championship Series for them. Color looks weird in my head. Boston versus Cleveland. For Game 1 in Cleveland, Cleveland wins 5-4. Game 2 in Cleveland, Cleveland wins 6-0. Game 3 in Boston, Cleveland wins 4-3. So we got Toronto versus Cleveland. And trust me, a little bit of a spur. It was a short series too, but San Francisco versus Chicago. Game 1 in Chicago, Chicago wins 1-0. Game 2 in Chicago, Chicago wins 5-2. Game 3 in San Francisco, San Francisco wins 6-5 and 13. Game 4 in San Francisco, Chicago 6, San Francisco 5, and Chicago's going to the National League Championship Series for the first time since 2003. Yeah, short memory, old age. Dodgers versus Washington. Game 1 in Washington, Los Angeles 4-3. Game 2 in Washington, Washington wins 5-2. Game 3 in LA, Los Angeles, Washington wins 8-3. Game 4 in LA, Dodgers win 6-5. And Game 5 in Washington, the Dodgers win 4-3. So we got the Cubs versus the Dodgers, and we got the Jays versus the Indians. And when I say this was a short series, I'm not joking. Game 1 in Cleveland, Cleveland wins 2-0. Game 2 in Cleveland, Cleveland wins 2-1. Game 3 in Toronto, Cleveland wins 4-2. Game 4 in Toronto, Toronto wins 5-1. Cleveland wins Game 5 in Toronto 3-0. Cleveland pitching was excellent in that series, and I mean excellent. I mean, that's one way to shut down your opponent's off, is just pitch. Starters, I think, went pretty deep in all the games that they won. Anyways, Dodgers versus Chicago. Game 1 in Chicago, Cubs win 8-4. Game 2 in Chicago, Dodgers win 1-0. Game 3 in Los Angeles, Dodgers win 6-0. Game 4 in Los Angeles, Cubs win 10-2. Game 5 in Los Angeles, Cubs win 8-4. Game 6 in Chicago, Cubs win 5-0. The Cubs are going to their first World Series since 1945. Yeah, that's a long time ago. That time it was like 71 years in 2016. Yeah. So anyways, now here's the Cleveland's previous World Series win prior to 2016 was 1948. And Chicago's last World Series win was 1908. So one drought is ending. Let's find out whose drought ends. Game 1 in Cleveland. Cleveland wins 6-0. Game 2 in Cleveland, Chicago wins at 5-1. Game 3 in Chicago, Cleveland wins at 1-0. Game 4 in Chicago, Cleveland wins 7-2. Game 5 in Chicago, Chicago wins 3-2. Game 6 in Cleveland, Chicago wins at 9-3. And after about a half hour, a bit of a rain delay prior to the 10th inning, I had enough time to go to Tim Hortons to get some food. I actually remember this. Chicago ends up winning Game 7, 8-7 in 10 innings. This giving Chicago's their first World Series since 1908, as I mentioned. And Cleveland still has to suffer. But how long do they suffer for? Well, we don't know yet. So that's 2016. Tomorrow, 2017, and another World Series. But who wins it? Honestly, I can't even remember now. How bad is that? Okay, never mind, I just remembered, but we'll get to that tomorrow. Until then, stay tuned.